Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, and we told you this episode was coming. It wouldn't be the week before St. Petersburg if we didn't have our annual DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast predictions episode. This is one of my favourite episodes of the year, alongside the end of year driver tier list and the Christmas special. Alongside those ones, this is right up there. Archie joins me for what's going to be a very fun hour or so predictions, and as the defending champion, James Scott absolutely had to return. The pressure's on this year, James. You have a title to defend to make your appearance here in 1 year's time. Otherwise, you're probably off.
Yeah, no, I'm really hoping that lightning strikes twice with a bold prediction that I had. It was Christian Rasmussen's win in Milwaukee that carried a great deal of points last time around. So we'll see if it happens again. But it's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, we worked out Rasmussen earned about a third of your points last year, there or thereabouts. So let's get straight into predictions. We have 5 rounds, as we did last year, varying in sensible predictions and then some not so sensible predictions, as we'll get on to a little bit later. But the easiest place to start is, of course, that IndyCar champion. As we know, this section didn't quite go to plan for myself and Archie last year, and I've kind of went a bit downhill from there. But I think we've all got the same answer here. Archie, I'm going to let you commence with probably the very predictable prediction of this entire episode.
Listen, I love trying to be different, but how can you really bet against Alex Palou? Literally, the only thing, as we've said, that has stopped him in his 5 years at Ganassi has been the contractual disputes in 2022. And now this off-season, every remaining lingering thing relating to that has gone. And I mean, he just feels like he's leveled up every year. And every year we try and say, oh no, someone else will win. McLaughlin's going to win the championship. But I think we've learned our lesson this year that we just can't really go against Palou. It will be hard for him to level up again, just given how preposterous 2025 was, where it was. But I feel like he could probably level down several notches and probably still be the champion quite comfortably, to be honest. And I got the sense on media day that the rest of the field was still pretty entirely miffed with how to stop him and get anywhere close to him, really, because he's just so remarkably complete in a way that we've barely ever seen before. And he's won the last 3 titles, and I absolutely think right now he will become only the second driver to do the 4-peat, because I just don't see who could possibly deny him.
I totally agree. I've also gone for Alex Palou, and as you say, the only time he hasn't won the championship with Chip Ganassi Racing, it was embroiled in that complicated 2022 year that we now know much more about as well, and how actually deep all of those situations actually ran, and perhaps a big distraction from the driving. And even then, he still finished 5th in the championship and finished the season with an imperious victory at Laguna Seca. So yeah, 196 points was the gap last year. I'd be shocked if it's that big this time around. I feel like perhaps this may be the 2024 season of Alex Palou compared to his dominant 2023 that we saw then now 3 seasons ago, which feels crazy saying that. I would be really shocked if he doesn't wrap up a 5th IndyCar title this season. But I do think it'll be a touch closer than it was last year.
Yep, no surprises there. It's a hat-trick of Alex Palou's for our champion prediction. As Archie said, we went a little bit brave with McLaughlin last year, and I've kind of gone from some others on previous years. I remember I went for a Ward a couple of years ago and a few others. But when you base off last year, it's like, well, there's a 200-point gap effectively. How is anybody going to close that in the gap in the length of an off-season? Sure, as James says, the deficit will probably be less than that, but it's just so hard to see somebody outscore Palou in so many of these different metrics. It's going to take some catastrophic collapse really for Palou not to win a championship, and the gap will certainly get closer because it can't get bigger, surely. I say this at this point, that might age absolutely horribly, but it surely can't get bigger. It's only got to get smaller, and I think ultimately a lot of teams have got a lot of work to do before they close the gap to Alex Palou. I don't think that's going to occur in a 6-month off season. It's just impossible to see anybody beating him. Now he's cracked over, now he's cracked qualifying over the course of the year. So very, very safe bet, I think, for Alex Palou being the IndyCar champion. So no surprises there. Bit of a boring one to start, but I mean, we have to say the prediction, and we'd be foolish not to pick Palou this year. Okay, let's hope the unanimous predictions end at this point here, and we have slightly more variation between you now and the rest of the episode. Otherwise, there won't be a very good reaction in 7 months' time when we all have exactly the same. Let's go on to the Indianapolis 500 winner. Obviously, this one on paper a little bit harder to predict than the IndyCar champion. Obviously, a field of 33, hopefully, that we're going to be picking from. James, you take us away with your Indy 500 prediction.
So I've actually matched my prediction from 12 months ago. So it wasn't successful, but I still think there's method behind the madness. I'm going for Scott Dixon to pick up a second Indy 500 crown. I feel like it would be unjust for Dixon to end his career with one Indy 500. And I feel like every year I say the same thing where I feel like this one could be the one. I mean, Chip Ganassi are obviously an extremely strong organization, and Alex Palou won the Indy 500 last year and got his moment in the sunshine at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, along with then of course his terrific championship spree, which meant that he really cemented himself in the history books. And Chip Ganassi Racing are such an effective organization, and Dixon has just had bad luck after bad luck after bad luck every single season. Last year was a 20th place finish at the Indy 500, and I just think it will happen at some point. And so I'm going to keep backing this prediction perhaps every year until one time it does come off. But yeah, I'm going to go for Scott Dixon again, and I think it would be a really feel good win as well. I feel like even if you're a devoted Scott Dixon fan or just an IndyCar watcher, you'd be like, yeah, I feel like he deserves a second Indy 500 after, leading the most laps in Indy 500 history and having the second most pole positions and just string of bad luck races. I think, yeah, this would be nice to see him win. I said that last year too.
I'm looking forward to this episode 28 years' time where James is still going, yes, Dixon now at the age of 73. I think he's got it in him this year. We'll see how long that goes on for. I have gone for somebody who's suffered similar fate at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway without having that all-important victory. And I think that's going to change this year as I've gone for Pato O'Ward to claim his first Indianapolis 500 victory. Obviously, he's been knocking on the door for the good part of half a decade now. We know how close he's gotten, but he showed he could qualify well last year. It feels like Aaron McLaren are kind of gradually making a step forward year by year at the race. As shown in qualifying, generally the strengths of the four cars throughout. Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to be a huge addition to that team for that experience. He's being embedded in early on and was obviously very close to winning a dry and Ryan Bond last year and brings that winning mentality to the team for the Indianapolis 500. And I think O'Ward knows how to win the race. Ultimately, he's been so close before that. I think that's a fair assessment to make. He just needs to get it over the line, which he hasn't quite in the last couple of years. Last year had quite a quiet run to third. The 500 he didn't finish third on track. Obviously, we know what the story was there, being difficult to overtake at the end. But I just feel it's going to happen eventually for O'Ward. It has to. And I think this year is going to be that year.
From my side, I mean, we all know that Indy has a knack for producing stories. And I think it would be the ultimate redemption story if Scott McLaughlin won it after last year's nightmare. So he's going to be my pick. I can't remember whether he was my pick last year as well. I think I might have gone for Newgarden to do the three-piece, actually. But
I picked McLaughlin, didn't I? Because that was
obviously. Yes, picking him to win every single oval race. But yeah, I mean, obviously, crashing before the start of the race last year was the single lowest moment of his IndyCar career. I mean, unimaginable heartbreak, really. But I just see such focus in McLaughlin this off-season, and I don't see him coming back to Indy and like being haunted by what happened last year. I think this will be channeled in pretty significant motivation to put the wrongs right. And okay, he can't afford a month like he had last year. He was super quick, but obviously had the crash before the Fast 12 qualifying session in that practice, which was a big crash, was in the backup car. And then obviously what happened on race day happened in a backup car. But he absolutely has the speed and he absolutely has the team to win. So yeah, I think McLaughlin could get the job done this year.
Interesting. Nice variation there. Well done, everybody. A bit more interesting. 3 of the top teams, 3 different drivers. Good stuff. This one, I think we might go back to a very similar prediction, but we'll see what we do for the Rookie of the Year, obviously between Dennis Hager, Kyle Collette and Mick Schumacher. Me and Archie obviously spoken about this quite a lot. It's anticipated to be one of the closest Rookie of the Year battles in a very long time, based on the experience of the drivers, the experience they've had in America, the teams they're with, the technical partnerships they've got, etc., etc. So it's predicted to be very close. I've been milling through this throughout the offseason for a very, very, very long time because it's not been an easy decision to make. But I am going to kick off this one, and I'm going to go for one of our very good friends of the show in Dennis Hauger to claim the IndyCar Rookie of the Year title. I just think, based on what we saw in Indy Next, I think he'll probably beat Collette over the course of the season, judging by the fact that he beat Collette last season with a year's less experience. And I think team-wise, yes, Con maybe are a step down, but they now do have that Andretti alliance of sorts. He's got access to Andretti data, a bit of support from Andretti guys, which is going to help with that. And I just think Schumacher's probably got a little bit too much to learn in a team that is still isn't quite there on a consistent basis. So I'm not saying Coyne necessarily were last year, but we saw big improvements over Rinus VK was. And I think, as I said, that Andretti partnership is really going to help Alga. And having that year under his belt in America is already got him used to the track, got him a little bit used to the tyres, a little bit used to the procedures. Obviously, it's still a little learning to do, but I just think out of the three, he's probably just about in the best place for me to claim that title.
Yeah, ditto from my side. I mean, I think it is one where you can probably make a case for each of them. I think Schumacher is probably the biggest unknown, given how much is new to him. Like, pretty much everything in the environment is new to him. He does obviously have vast experience on his side, a lot of pedigree from, F1, where, okay, he was disappointing, but he did come into it in a little bit in that second year. He was really impressive in WEC, so I wouldn't count him out. I also wouldn't count Collett out, simply given he has the most experience in the US. But just like you say, Dan, I'm confident enough that Hauger has the edge on Collett, given what we saw last year coming into the series when everything was brand new. And I mean, what he did last year, Hauger, was remarkable, really. He adapted to what was essentially the situation that Schumacher's in this year, which is, I think, another reason why Hauger probably will have the edge. In terms of everything was unknown to him. He didn't know the tracks, the tyres, the car was new, the culture over in the States was new. But he adapted so quickly and ultimately dominated the championship from the outset. And I think Rinus VK showed the ceiling of that team last year. The Andretti bond is only going to elevate them further, particularly when you look at some of the weaknesses, maybe short ovals, which is, okay, not a super strength of Andretti's, but they're improving there. And I think they could certainly raise the game that Coyne can offer in that discipline. So, yeah, I just think you can't understate how impressive Hauger was last year. And I firmly believe out of the three that he will have a really long-term career ahead in IndyCar. And that's not to say the other two won't either, but I just put Hauger top of the pecking order at the moment in terms of someone who not only will be Rookie of the Year this season, but also as a possible future champion as well in years to come.
So I'm going to go slightly different there because, like you, Dan, I have thought about this for quite a while. I actually think Kyle Collett might have the edge because I just fancy AJ Foyt Racing in this new season and with the seasons that they had last year and just on their upward trajectory and with just how much better they've been across the board. I fancy them much more than Dale Coyne Racing. And I know that Dale Coyne Racing are now linked up with Andretti and it will help a bit. But I just think over the course of the campaign, I feel like AJ Foyt Racing have developed into a much stronger, well-oiled machine. And every time I've watched Kyle Collett, I've been impressed with how much he seems to shine on the bigger stage. So, like he does the more daring things, but I think the thing that sticks in my mind most is the overtake that he pulled off at Spa in 2021 in the heaviest of rain, where Formula 3 raced and then Formula 1 didn't. And I've just always been really impressed with that aggressive nature, and I feel like he will take well to the big stage. And I hope I'm right. As we'll see when we do the standings, I think it's going to be particularly close. All three of my rookies are Linus Stern in the championship, but I just fancy AJ Foyt Racing over Dale Coyne over the course of the season. And with what we saw Hauger do last year, I mean, it was pretty phenomenal. He just essentially drove off into the distance every time he got the opportunity to before there was a caution that dragged him back. But I just think that over the course of the season, I think the machinery that AJ Foyt will provide with Kyle Collett is stronger than what Dennis Hauger's brilliance would be able to do to pull Dale Coyne up the field, if that makes sense. So it will be particularly close, but I just have this inkling that Collett might do it.
Yeah, I think it's worth giving a word to Mick Schumacher on the basis he's the one with the most experience in motorsport general. He's done Formula 1, he's done one Endurance Championship, Endurance Championships, adaptable like that. He comes to the team with the most pedigree, who's had a lot of changes, he's got a lot of data to go through different cars, he's got a greatly experienced teammate in Graham Rahal, and that team also ran the Rookie of the Year, Louis Foster, last year. So as we said, you can definitely make an argument for all three of them. And I think throughout the year, it's going to be one of the most interesting storylines to follow. So hopefully one of them doesn't run away with it. So it's going to be an interesting storyline to follow for the entire season. So those three first predictions, all fairly kind of set in stone. There's no debating. There is one Indianapolis 500 winner, one IndyCar champion, one Rookie of the Year. So you'll get a flat 10 points for those. And the next ones are kind of a little bit more opinion based, and we'll come to them in 7 months' time, whatever it is, and rate them out of 10 and how close they are. So we'll start off with the surprise package. Who is going to be somebody who many think will fly under the radar, who's going to do better than expected? Archie, you can lead for this one.
So I've gone for Marcus Armstrong, who I do think, to be fair, was sufficiently surprising last year. I don't think we came into the season expecting that he would finish, in the top 10 11 times. He'd be 8th in the standings. And I think we actually said in our preview episode, if you haven't listened to that yet, that last year made me and Dan, reevaluate what Armstrong is and what he could be, I think. That's particularly the feeling that I am coming to this year with. And he was insistent, actually, that there was still more on the table for next season. And he was almost unhappy, despite, from the outside, what a good season it seemed like he had, obviously, in that first year, having switched from Ganassi to their technical allies at Meyershank Racing. And I think that considered, I genuinely think this year we could see him as a more regular front-running fixture in the field. I expect, making this claim that he's going to be surprised of the season, that we could see him on the podium multiple times. He's going to be someone who'll push for race wins. And I can see him rising to the sort of level we've seen from Scott Dixon in recent years, because, with that Ganassi link still in place, I just keep seeing him, and it's not just the Kiwi of it all. More and more as the successors to Dixon, I just see a lot of parallels in terms of not someone who's necessarily, going to be the quickest in the field, but someone who's extremely canny on a race day. And I think that will come to the fore even more so this season.
Yeah, I actually have also gone for Marcus Armstrong. And I was going to make, I hear all the points that you make and I agree with them completely. But just to build on that, I think the thing that really impressed me the most was finishing in the top 10 on every single short oval except Nashville. And it was just so impressive just to see how much better that was over the course of the season than it had been in 2024. And he clearly does his homework, as you say. There's a sort of resemblance there, perhaps, with Scott Dixon. He works extremely hard, and he seems as focused as ever coming into the season. And that was an 8th place finish in the championship last year. Well, whether he'll be able to keep that up and score all of those points, I'm not sure, but I think that we will be able to see some real flashes of speed, and I'm feeling pretty confident that we will see him on the podium multiple times, possibly even a race win. I don't want to ruin anything that might be coming later, but yeah, I hear all the points you've made, Archie, and that's exactly what I was thinking when I was making this as well. I just think I was so impressed with it last year because it was quiet, but every time he looked up, he was in the top 10. And then every time you were watching on a Saturday, it was easily through to the fast 12, on the door of the fast 6, sometimes in the fast 6. And it was just so impressive for someone that, I mean, had his struggles in his rookie season, and people kind of doubted the F2 to IndyCar move that had been made, especially with it's not bad by any means, but the not outstanding F2 record that someone like a Dennis Hauger might bring. But just to see that consistency and that improvement over the course of the season, it was just so impressive. And yeah, I really do think he'll take that next step this year. But
James described the Armstrong penalty excellently for anybody who is somehow unfamiliar with what it is if you haven't ever listened to an episode of this podcast before. You'll be glad to know I've gone for something slightly different. I've gone for another good mate of our show, Louis Foster, as the surprise package for this season. I think he had a quiet year last year, did Foster. No top 10 finishes, obviously really starting qualifying, but I feel like not many people went away from the season particularly impressed by Foster, or I don't think there's many people really, as of like talking about Foster once the season ended. It was like, okay, he had a respectable season, but I think he's going to really kick on this year. I think we've obviously spoken to him quite a lot, and he's obviously identified kind of where they went wrong. And I think a lot of that is experience based on Foster. I think a lot of year one was obviously learning, and we saw he has the raw pace in qualifying. It's just he couldn't quite convert that into race day, and now he's kind of got that year's experience under his belt. He's really going to be able to pick on that, and just having that year experience, it goes a very, very long way. We've seen it for drivers like Kiffin Simpson, for example, last season, just how they were able to elevate the performance of just 1 year's experience. And I can see Louis Foster doing exactly the same this season, and to hopefully get another pole this season, get those multiple top 10 finishes. I wouldn't be surprised in seeing the top 5 on multiple occasions. He's definitely got the ability to do so. I just think being that rookie year wasn't easy to rookie years, but now he's kind of identified what he needs to work on. It's going to happen this year. He's going to have a much better year, and I think people aren't necessarily speaking about Foster much just because he had a pretty quiet season last year, but I think that's a lot more people are going to be talking about him come season's end. Right, so let's go on to the most improved driver. James, your turn to start off. I can probably take a guess you're going to go for, but I'll let you take it away anyway.
Yeah, there's no surprises here at all. It surely can't be any worse than last year for Marcus Ericsson.
We said that last year.
But then it did get worse. But just 2 top 10 finishes in 17 races last year, including one in the opening round, which was completely anonymous. But after St. Pete, it was like, well, maybe this is the blueprint for. It was just similar to the blueprint for success that he had at Chip Ganassi Racing, and then didn't finish in the top 10 until Toronto. So yeah, and there was of course the Indy 500 heartbreak as well, where he probably should have won that race. And then, well, we don't know what would have happened if he had won that race before then the aerodynamic infringement then took place. I guess we'll never know. But I see him moving up from 21st in the standings and taking quite a significant jump as well. I think the extra impetus of having willpower there now as well. It's a contract year as well. There's just more pressure than there has been. And not that it was driving without pressure, but I feel like every time that we saw the best of Marcus Ericsson at Chip Ganassi Racing, it was when he was really having to fight for his career. And in 2022 and 2023, especially in 2023, actually, and I mean, it took Alex Palou's brilliance. No one got near him in the standings, but I thought that was Marcus Ericsson's best season in IndyCar. That was in a contract year where he was really having to fight for his future. And so I see a similar thing happening this season. I feel like last year is a pretty stark reality, a reminder that this series is that competitive that you can't simply just coast to top 10 finishes anymore, and every single point needs to be earned. And not that wasn't happen. And there was, of course, a big string of bad luck as well, and that was particularly the case in 2024. But yeah, it just simply has to get better. And if not, then I would expect that Dennis Hauger would be in that seat sooner rather than later. So yeah, I think it has to be Marcus Ericsson, and he has to start the season strongly. I would expect to see him on the podium at least once this year, once or twice. He has to go. He has to be the most improved driver because he finished 20th in the standings last year with 2 top 10s in an Andretti car.
Yep, as James says, it just can't get any worse. And I know, as Archie said, we said it last year, but it can't. It surely cannot get any worse, especially with 2 cars less in the series. He'd have to actively be tanking in order for it to be worse this season. And Marcus Ericsson's too good of a driver to have 2 top 10s in the season and finish 20th in the standing. You saw what he can do in his IndyCar career. He's a proven race winner. He's an Indianapolis 500 winner. He's a very, very consistent driver, as we've seen in his Chip Ganassi Racing days. And there's no way that he's going to have yet another season of that. It's year 3 of Andretti now. There is absolutely no excuses. As we alluded to on Content Day, he kind of maybe felt a little bit difficult after that heartbreak at Indianapolis 500, but he's over that now. He's got a new season to look forward to. A lot of street tracks and a lot of new street tracks, which Andretti have always fared well at. He's always fared well on the street tracks, as he said in the media call earlier today. So he's got to improve because there's no way he can do worse than he is for a driver of his caliber.
I've actually gone different because I feel like the same kind of easy picks exist this year that existed last year, and they're Ericsson and Newgarden, who I think we both had the same argument last year that we had the same argument for both of them last year that it couldn't get worse, and it did. And I just wanted to go a bit different because, I mean, on the Ericsson side, I actually just don't see him making a meaningful enough step. Okay, he might leap up like 5-10 places in the standings, but I just don't see him making a meaningful enough step for if this is a subjective category to warrant this. And that's purely just judging off the form that we've seen in the last 2 years. How competitive it is, as you've said, James. Something just doesn't feel like it's meshed at Andretti, and I'm not sure it will. I think Newgarden could make a bigger step, but again, I'm not really sure how big a step he will make in terms of standings again, just because it's so competitive. So I'm going to go different. I'm going to say what your answer was for the previous one, Dan. I'm going to go for Louis Foster. It was between, for me, him, Kiffin Simpson, and Nolan Siegel, being kind of the other two, being the two guys that are trailing at the big four teams in terms of having two very high caliber teammates. But I just think Foster will actually, from those guys who have all finished kind of in that same-ish gaggle last season, I just think last year he was just those hiccups on race day away from really breaking through. Maybe not ovals because of the struggles the team have had there, but particularly on road courses where we saw his speed. And I think now that he has a year of experience banked, they've had an off-season to evaluate the team, which has been in a transition state and is still in a transition state, but is stabilizing a little bit. I just think he will really kick on this year and really impress, because I think he might finish 24th in the standings in the end last year, if I'm correct in saying, maybe 23rd. But ultimately, I just think he's probably going to make quite a significant leap comparative to what we might see from an Ericsson. He's obviously also got a new contract, which I have a piece that by the time this is up, should be up on the DIVEBOMB site, just detailing some things on that. I think that stability isn't harmful. I don't think it's going to be a perfect year, but I think it's going to be a much more Lundgaard-like season from Foster, who has kind of replaced Lundgaard in that role of the young figurehead of the team for ultimately a long-term project there.
Let's go on to the best face in new place. Obviously, the big two are Will Power, Andretti Global, and David Malukas at Team Penske. But if you're feeling brave, you've also got the option of Rinus VeeKay at Hunkers-Hollinger Racing. So you've got 3 to pick from last year, which is quite a bit less than in previous years. So I'm going to kick us off for this one, and I realistically think we're all going to pick between Power and Malukas. I mean, Archie might not, as Rinus VeeKay's number one fan, but you'll find out shortly. But I'm going to go Power. For me, just has the edge over Malukas. I can just see Power being a little bit more consistent over the course of a season than Malukas will. And obviously, his experience is significantly more than Malukas's. And ultimately, as Power said, an IndyCar is still an IndyCar when you get away. And that's the same for Malukas, but Power's obviously got more experience in that IndyCar. He's going to bring a lot of development to Andretti, who have proved to be pretty strong last year, definitely stronger than Penske were last year. And Power's only going to lead that team forward with his experience, with the overall knowledge that he's got from Penske. And I can just see him beating Malukas across the course. Yeah, I don't think they'll be miles apart, as we'll see the championship standings a little bit later.
I will preface mine with saying I do think VeeKay will kind of do a similar thing at Hunkos to what he did at Dale Coyne Racing, and that bears a mention because we have likened those two kind of situations that he's come into. Obviously, JHR in a better position than kind of the strife that Coyne were in when VeeKay first joined, but two kind of similar situations for him. I think he'll do well again. But yeah, I could hardly split between Malukas and Power, and I'm glad you went for Power because I've gone for Malukas. And I just am struck by how comfortable he already looks in this big environment. Like, he doesn't look at all overwhelmed. He looks completely as his own self, all bubbly and upbeat, and kind of as bubbly and upbeat as I've ever seen him. And I just feel like he's got so much to lean on from the last few years in terms of the hardships, the lessons he's got from that, but also the fact that he's been part of so many different teams as well over that period, and he's got used to change, which compared to Power is very different because Power's been at Penske for 17 years, and this idea of change is okay, yes, an IndyCar's an IndyCar, whatever, but it's pretty alien to him. Like, at the same time, I say all this, and like, I can see Power having a brilliant top 5 season and really impressing, and this is why as we get to our championship standings later on, like, I think we've all had our own mini existential crises about it because it's just so hard to call what's actually going to happen. And I think this Malukas Power battle is going to be really, really tough. But yeah, I just think there's times that maybe I can see, I don't know, Power and the Andretti package might come up a little bit short. I know they're not brilliant on road courses still. There's still work to do on ovals. I think obviously Penske had a very rough year last season, and maybe that could impact Malukas, the fact that they are another team in like a bit of a transitional state. But I don't know, I just think Malukas will finish the best of the crop. I think he has the potential, while he will be probably streaky at points, he has the potential to deliver the highest peaks, I would say.
Yeah, I'm thought about this for quite a while as well. And in the end, what it came down to is I think willpower will improve Andretti more than David Malukas will improve Team Penske, if that makes sense. I just think having willpower there might have a particularly strong effect on the rest of the team. I mean, he's extremely strong on short ovals. We know that that's been Andretti's Achilles heel for a long time now. Although he's not had the best run of it at the Indy 500 of late, once again, Andretti and are trending there in the right direction, and having a proven Indy 500 winner in willpower in the ranks will also help. And that's not to say that I don't think David Malukas will be a success, because even if it takes a couple of races to get up to speed, I firmly believe that that is going to be a good move for both parties. And as you say, Archie, he looks completely comfortable in that environment, as he has in every environment that he's been in so far as well. And I think that's a complete credit to him, even when his career was on the line and Meyershank Racing offered him a lifeline. He then immediately walked into that environment and looked extremely comfortable as well, even whilst racing in discomfort. He still had the David Malukas that we know, but I just think the head that willpower has on his shoulders will help Andretti a lot, and even some of the more feisty aspects as well. That's something, a little bit of fire maybe is also what Andretti have been missing. So they've kind of just, since in this aero screen era, kind of just been there or thereabouts because they are Andretti, as opposed to actively driving themselves forward. I feel not since Alexander Rossi really was kind of taking the lead and finishing runner up in the standings. I know Colton Herta finished second in the standings in 2024, but you never really felt like he was in the game in compared to when Rossi was racing for titles. And I just think maybe that's a spark that they need to drive them forwards, and having that extra experience. And losing Colton Herta is a massive thing for Andretti, but also gaining such a strong driver in willpower, I think that will be really good for both parties, and I hope it works really well for both parties as well. So I've gone for willpower, but I hear everything you're saying with Malukas, and I agree that I think VK might be a success, as Mike Roman Grosjean moving kind of back to Dale Coyne Racing, but moving from the sofa and out of IndyCar to Dale Coyne Racing.
Disrespect to his Premier Reserve job there, James. He was sat on the team pit wall the entire year.
We barely saw him, did we, really? I've got to say that the point about power raising Andretti is a really good one, actually. I think that's the toughest category we've had, to be honest, in terms of choosing. It was a real toss-up between the two of them. I could barely choose there, which feels like a bit of a cop-out to say, but I have picked Malukas, so that is on record.
Okay, so this is where this episode went in completely different directions at this stage last year, when we moved on to our bold prediction, as James alluded to very early on. His bold prediction was absolutely perfected. Mine, not so much, but we can reset that this year. There's a new chance for me to redeem myself, and maybe James to have an absolute stinker with the bold prediction. Archie, you didn't have quite as a shocker as me, and you didn't quite have the heights of James, so we'll let you start off for this one as the middle man in the bold predictions tier list.
Did I say both ECR and Foyt were going to win a race?
I think so. So you kind of there.
Yeah, so half and half. I don't want to make this the Marcus Armstrong show, but I think he's going to finish in the top 5 in the standings. That is my bold prediction for the year, just because he ended last season with such reliability, and I don't know. I just feel really confident in him making a step forward this season. Like, I think a lot of that comes from the discontent that he has kind of exhibited this preseason about the fact that last year, actually, there was a lot still left on the table, despite us being so impressed with it. And, he felt that he had the potential to be in the top 5 on most of those weekends where he was finishing 7th, 8th, 9th. And, okay, he needs to actually do it and execute. But I actually think he could execute that. And I can see him being a proper disruptor this year to your regular front runners. I'd say it's definitely bold. Like, it would be Shank's best championship finish, his as well. And I don't know. I've just got a lot of faith in Marcus Armstrong this year.
It's the Rasmussen of last year, isn't it? You and Marcus Armstrong. James.
Well, mine relates to the same driver, but I'm quite glad that you didn't say exactly what I was going to say. But I've got Marcus Armstrong to win a race this year. I've gone for a very kind of similar one driver that will see the checkered flag first. Now, arguably, it's not as brave as last year's pick, but I do see it being in the same category as a short oval. One of the Milwaukee races, I think, will go to Marcus Armstrong. That's on record. It could be any of the races. There's 18 of them, but in the same way that I kind of got it bang on last year with Rasmussen, I kind of now, because I've followed you in both of these, I concur with all of the points that you've made, and it just feels kind of right. Now, when it doesn't happen for either of us, we're going to look really, really silly over the last sort of 15 minutes. But everything that I've seen has just been really impressive. The whole demeanor, the fact that not just the demeanor now, but then also the results on the paper as well. The speed is clearly there, and there's enough of it. But then there's all this extra this extra experience. I just think it's going to happen. So I think Marcus Armstrong gets his first IndyCar win in 2026.
I was going to wait until later, but I will reveal now. I also think he's going to win a race to reach top 5 in the championship.
All right, this is probably tired of hearing you two natter on about Armstrong every couple of minutes, so I'm going to shake this up a little bit. I'm not going to go as venturous as I did last year because it was just a complete
You want to remind everyone once again what you did last year?
They can listen back. They can listen back to that episode if they're desperate.
It's not like he's going to win every oval race.
Well, I think we're going to have multiple different drivers win an oval race this year, so I'll set that first of all.
That's your prediction
this year.
How brave!
No, I didn't want to do a winner because that's our own category, so I didn't want to do that. And we've got some questions coming up later, so I went for a bit of a funky one. I think every team is going to stand on the podium at some point in the season. Every full-time team, I should clarify, not Dry and Rainbow, because that means they'll have to win the 500. But yeah, it's out there. Like obviously, the top 4 teams almost certainly will. Shank, we've established, probably will. Carpenter, definitely good enough. RLL, bit fringe, but they're going in the right direction. I think Coyne could luck into one somewhere. I think Grosjean's going to not do too bad, and I think Hauger's got great potential. I can see VK doing something similar at one race to what he did last year. And Foyt, we've seen Ferrucci do it last couple of years. I think every team has the capability. I think if I'm looking at this prediction, I need to think they're probably slightly right for Huncross and Dale Coyne Racing, but with the Andretti Alliance, Coyne definitely have the potential. And Huncross is a big question mark, but I can kind of see VK hopefully producing kind of the same magic he did last year at Toronto. So slightly out there. I didn't want to do something which conflicted with any of the predictions later on in the episode. So we'll see how that fares. But yeah, I thought I'd go for an exciting one. And if this is wrong, it can't be embarrassingly wrong like it was last year. It's not like 0 teams are going to stand on the podium. Like realistically, I'm going to get at least 6 locked in, just whether the last 4 do or not. So definitely less embarrassing for me this year than it was last year.
I like that. That's a really good prediction. I think. I don't know whether it'll happen, but I think it's a good prediction.
Right, we're going to slightly shake up the order to what we did last year, and we're going to do 10 questions now, which are yes or no questions, on 10 different topics that we came up with about what's going to happen in the 2026 season. So 10 kind of storylines or interesting points that we want to discuss, all answered yes or no. So first question was, will Prema or any buyer compete at any race this year? Obviously, Prema aren't returned to the grid so far with St. Petersburg as they look for investment or a replacement buyer. So, Archie, do you think we will have Prema or Prema's replacement at any point this year?
Yes, I think it will be in the form of a buyer, but I'm not entirely convinced when I say that as well, because obviously we've got the chartered, the Honda and Chevy charters coming in 28, so that will automatically bring the grid to 27, which will kind of eliminate the ability for one of these non-chartered teams to run if they continue to cut the field. So I'm not entirely certain, but I'm going to just say yes, that something will happen.
Yeah, I've gone for a very similar vein. I'm not quite sure the logistics of how this is all going to work and the legal aspects of it, but at some stage, I think we will see. We will see 27 cars, or 26 or 27 cars make up a full field in the form of another team. On that subject, did we see that Callum Ilott tweeted that he was going to be at St. Pete's as a taxi driver? I got my hopes up.
Yes.
Was that his news?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, come on. He's like
that all the time, isn't he?
Such a clown.
Yeah.
I mean that in the nicest way. He is a proper jokester.
No, you raise a good point there, Archie. If there was a buyer, would they really want to invest for a year and a half? Would IndyCar be willing to maybe up the field for 29 in some cases just to give you that flexibility? I don't think we will see Prema another buyer. I don't think Prema are going to find the funding, and I don't think anyone's going to be willing to buy in just because it's an expensive project. I think we will see 26 or 27 cars at some races this year. I think you could quite easily see Shank maybe run a fourth car in preparation if they're going to take this Honda entry in 2028. The same applies to maybe teams like ECR or Foyt. We've seen RLL run a fourth car on occasions in previous season. Could Ryan Reinbold enter a car at some point later in the year if they feel ready to do so with Jack Harvey, for example? So I don't think we'll have Prema or a new Prema on the field this year, but I think we will at some point later on in the season, probably after the Indianapolis 500, see 26 or 27 cars on the field at some point.
That's a good theory. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't go with that theory.
I like the idea that Ryan Reinbold would run another car. I wanted to say that, but I didn't have the confidence, so I didn't.
I'm not saying I'm confident. It's just they have the resources apparently. So, and we did speak to Jack about some content today. He said it was something he's kind of pushing Dennis Reinbold to do. So potentially being spoken about. Obviously, they want to put their efforts into the 500, but after that, they've got the personnel. So maybe I don't see why not. Question number 2. Talking of Ryan Reinbold, Conor Daly could quite possibly end up there come month of May, but that's yet to be confirmed. But do you think he's going to compete in a race outside of the Indianapolis 500 like he always seems to do at some point every season? James?
Well, you've just answered that perfectly for me, because he always seems to do at some point in the season the emergency SOS call when someone's outside the leaders circle. But am I right in saying that's been revamped now because of the charters? Or does that still exist?
No, it still exists.
I don't really understand. I think it still exists.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not 100% sure how it works. But essentially, when someone gets an SOS call because they need to push themselves up the standings, and we're finishing off with 2 races in Milwaukee where, you know, Conor Daly could easily drag a team up the standings. I think this could very well be the case. I don't know where. I don't know who might struggle that much that they would need it, but I can definitely see it happening.
If I'm going off my previous theory, I think I've answered this incorrectly. So my previous theory probably suggests Conor Daly will race at some point this year with Ryan Reinbold racing, but I'm going to just ignore the fact I said that previously, and I'm going to say no, he won't, just on the basis that we asked this question for Linus Lundqvist last year. He almost did. He was a reserve at Toronto, but that never quite materialised due to Nolan Siegel thankfully being fit for the race. As James said, ultimately he's either going to come in for injury or for a leader circle reasons. Now I'm looking at the leader circle, and the people I've got currently outside looking in, I don't think they'd be replaced if they were outside the leader circle. The only one potentially maybe is Stingray Rob, but I don't think Hancock would re-sign Conor Daly again for the purposes of that. So no, I don't think he will.
So yeah, I think he'll do an oval race based on your theory for the previous one, Dan, that another team will probably run a third or a fourth car, and just if they can and they've got the resources and the grids, kind of, you know, they're not risking getting bumped in a regular season race. So I think in that situation, Daly would race, or I can see him replacing Stingray Rob at some point. I don't know why. I still have it lingering that this offseason was just really confusing, that like every trace of Rob was removed from the Hunkos site, and then, you know, there's kind of rebutting any suggestions that there was ever any doubt. But that all just felt a bit weird. And if there is any strife there, then I feel like maybe Daly would return. But yeah, I think it's more likely to happen based off the theory that you had for the previous question there.
Question number 3, will there be bumping at the Indianapolis 500? Now, obviously, Prema have lost 2 of their entries. You had 34 last year, which means we could potentially go down to 32, but we don't know about the Andretti 4th entry with Marco Andretti not racing this year at Indianapolis 500. So we always hope for bumping. Do you think we'll get it, Archie?
I've kind of lost track of where we're up to with it, to be honest. I'm just going to say yes because I'm an optimist.
Nice. I like that attitude. James?
I'm going to say no. I think we're going to get to 33, but I don't think we're going to get more than 33. I did do the maths, but I have lost the post-it note. So I think we have already 29 confirmed entries, and then there's more that I needed to add on. But I think we will get 33, but not more than 33.
So we've got 29 already.
No, so we have 25 full-timers. Harvey,
Yeah.
Carpenter, and Hunter Ray have all been confirmed. Helio's
And Helio has kind of been confirmed.
Helio's
Yeah.
kind of, he hasn't been officially confirmed, but the assumption he's coming back. So that's 29.
He's
We've-
definitely coming back.
So
We've
then
got
extra
Sartre.
Andretti car.
Well, yeah, but is that going to happen?
I think it
No.
will happen.
I think it will. If they need 33, I would expect there might be some sort of black magic talking. I hope this isn't
Sarto
going
at
in.
RLL is probably a safe bet for Sarto to return. So that's another one you can add on. We've obviously got a second dry and Reinbold. Let's assume Connor
that's
Daly for
31.
now. That's 31. Prema made up another 2 last year. Where did their entries go?
I think if they find a buyer, they could.
But that's a big if, because
But it is-
But even just for the 500, they could have a buy just simply for the 500.
yeah. I mean, bear in mind the open test is in a month and a half, and it feels like we haven't really got much further with Prema than we were 2 months ago.
I'm also
What are
going
Dragon
to
Speed Racing up to these days?
I'm also going to say Able Motorsports.
I was going to say Abel.
Yeah.
I think they'll run Jacob so he can compete in the race at some point. So that's another one.
So that's 32, and then that would be then all you'd need is the 4th Andretti car, which I think they will.
Have we calculated that correctly?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
confused.
Hang
I
on,
think
let's
we've said enough.
reset. 20. No, we write this out. 25 full timers. The 4 already announced, including Helio, Sato, and Abel.
That's
Potentially
30.
Andretti, and a Connor
then-
Daly's. So if we have a 4th Andretti and Jacob Abel, we'll have
Yeah.
33.
And then maybe a buyer for Prema for the 500, and that gets you over.
Possibly.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm firming my yes.
Could somebody like Leg get a run out in the 3rd coin entry, for example? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
this was
or
a
even
mess,
a
but
4th
I'm gonna say
Ganassi
yes.
empty, even a 4th Ganassi entry, for example. Well, I mean, we've seen that before. We've seen them do 5. So, yeah, it could be possible.
I mean, I'm going no.
I'm going no.
I just don't think Prema are gonna sort themselves out by May. I just don't think, considering how little updates have been, that by May we're going to get something done. And I'm not as convinced as you two are on the Andretti extra entry. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to go no. I think they're actually going to struggle to get 33, to be honest. But we'll wait and see.
It would be sad if even if it's on 33, to be honest, because it's such a. Yeah, obviously it's preferable to be 33 over 32. They only had 32 cars start last year's race. But yeah, I don't know. I would just be sad if there's not bumping. Obviously, bumping in itself, when you get to bump day, it's bloody sad for whoever gets bumped. But I would be sad if that sadness isn't felt, because it's all part of the emotions of it. I'm just going to go in with blind optimism and say that somehow they're going to pull it off.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna stick to my. We'll get to 33, like 2022, where we called Stefan Wilson, and fortunately, Dragon Speed Racing bailed out the Indy 500, because otherwise that would have been the first time in, I think it's something like 6 decades. I can't remember the exact date that it was, but the last time there weren't 33 cars. But I think there'll be 33, but not more than 33.
We'll need an emergency Stefan Wilson call again this year. Let's hope not. Not that's disrespectful for Stefan Wilson. I just don't want us scrambling around in the end of April trying to find a 33 car. If Stefan Wilson wants to come in to make the field bumped, you're more than welcome, Stefan.
Very grateful for that.
We've just spent way too long on a yes or no answer there. We've only got three of these.
Well, we'll speed up. Will the title go down to Laguna Seca? I think yes, but it'd be one of those weird ones where it's a mathematical yes, but not a practical yes.
No, I think it's getting clinched for the race to go.
Like I said with the championship earlier, I think it will be the 2024 after the 2023. So this is going to be yes, in that it will go to the final race. But I think, Dan, like you say, I think Palou will be kind of there or thereabouts already.
Archie, your optimism's not staying for this question, is it?
No, it's not. I just think it'll go on one race longer than last year, but it'll still be a formality.
Will Joseph Newgarden remain at Penske for 2027? Obviously, he is expected to be a free agent at the end of the year. Big seats at Andretti, potentially a big seat at Aaron McLaren. James, what's your thoughts?
I think it's a yes. Like, with those seats that you've mentioned, I can't see him leaving Team Penske unless they have another year like they did last year. And we haven't gone through my 1 to 27 yet, but I don't believe that he'll be finishing outside the top 10 like he did last year. So no, I think he will stay at Team Penske. I just don't think there's enough of a pull for him to leave.
Yep, I am going to agree. I think that Andretti's seed is probably going to be Dennis Hauger's if it's not Marcus Ericsson. I've also got a theory that Aaron McLaren's seat could go to Enzo Fittipaldi because he won the Indy Next Championship and he's tested with the team before and has some backing. So that's my theory there. And I just think Penske's where Newgarden's had so much success. He'll be competitive at the 500 again. I don't think many other teams can give the guarantees that he's got at Penske. So I think he's going to kick around for at least another year.
I tried to picture him in Papaya and it weirded me out. So I'm saying, yeah, he's going to stay at Penske. Maybe just sign another year for the time being, but I think he will stay at Penske. That's obviously not with us having any insight into that. This is pure guesswork. I've just said the basis on which I think that's going to happen is because it weirds me out thinking of him being a McLaren driver. So.
Will Rahal Emelianengan Racing get a podium? You know my answer based on my bold prediction. That's a yes. Archie, what is yours?
Yes. Who do you think will get it, though?
Louis Foster.
I agree.
I think they will as well. I'm hoping for a significant uptick. And even if all round the team isn't stronger, I think Louis Foster will drag that team up. And that's reflected in my standings order as well.
Will there be an international race for 2027? Obviously, when we asked last year, but for 2026, not for 2027. James, your thoughts?
I wish I was an optimist, but I'm not. So after my dreams were crushed last year, I feel like the Mexico talk has gone quite quiet in recent times, and that's never really a good thing. Well, it might be a good thing, I guess, because sometimes when it's noisy and it says it's a week away from being completed and then it never gets done, we just feel a perennial sense of disappointment. But I'd love for it to be a yes, and if I can hit the reverse jinx, that would be good. But I've said no.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I've been let down too many times before. And I just think now they've got, I know Washington's not the carry on, but now they've got Arlington and looking at more marquee events. I just think that's a priority for them. Continue to grow the sport with Fox rather than trying to do too many things at once, such as trying an international race. Archie.
My optimism is back, and I'm saying yes. Provided Mexico does count as international, but yes.
Markham counts as international, but nobody ever seems to acknowledge that, do they?
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Well, because it's all within North America, isn't it? I guess
Mexico's North America, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's why they accept going to Mexico, because they're not going international. Oh well.
I guess the theory is that traveling from Detroit to Markham, for example, isn't a particularly long journey, but going from anywhere to Mexico City is a bit of a longer journey. So that's how your optimism is correct. I mean, it's quite the reversal. It's one question you're optimistic, me and James aren't, then it's the vice versa. So we'll see if it carries on. I don't think we have many more optimistic ones though. So anyway, next question: will there be a pole sitter outside of the big four teams? Obviously, Penske, Ganassi, Andretti, and McLaren. Archie.
Yes, two. Louis Foster and Marcus Armstrong.
Yes. James.
I haven't gone as specific as that, but I said yes. I mean, of course, Louis Foster's shock pole position last year was a real highlight, I think, of the year last year. And although, unfortunately, race day I kind of unravelled, wasn't expected to stay there. There was an accident at Turn 1, wasn't there?
Yes, but he wasn't involved in it.
Oh, fine. Oh,
kind of Turn 1. It was it
the year before? Oh, it was Linus Lundqvist on pole the year before as well. Yeah, that was what I'm thinking of. But I've spoken for too long. Yes, I think there will be. I'm not as specific as Archie, but I do think that one of the big four, most likely for me, would be Meyershank Racing. But if it's Louis Foster again, or even one of the Ed Carpenter racing cars, I do think that there'll be someone on the pole that's not one of the big four teams.
Yes, I do think there'll be a pole sitter outside the big four teams. We all agree on that one. Unofficially, I actually think it's going to be the Indianapolis 500. That's maybe slightly brave, but I think we're going to have a non-Big Four team take pole at the Indy 500, like we saw last year, for example. So, yes, I think they will. My Indy 500 prediction is that Carpenter are going to grab that pole. I think Louis Foster could also take a pole, and I think Meyershank Racing. I think I'm more Rosenqvist camp than Armstrong camp for taking a pole. But yes, this is one of the questions I actually feel the most confident on, which is a good thing. Will a Penske driver win the Oval Championship? I've gone no, because I think Pato O'Ward's going to win it this year.
I've gone yes, because I think McLaughlin will win it.
I've gone yes, because I think Joseph Newgarden will win it.
Right, it's exciting. 3 different Oval Championship predictions. I presume, unofficially, we're all going to agree that Pelot's going to win the road course one, barring any miracles.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a stupid question until I just asked that.
Yeah, pretty much.
We asked this last year, but I think we all agreed it was a no. But we're going to ask it again because it's fun. Will we see a collision between teammates, Archie?
Yes. McLaughlin into Newgarden at Milwaukee race one.
Exciting. That's
But
exciting.
McLaughlin will carry on, and I don't know what he'll do, but it'll help him in his overall championship bid, and it will end Newgarden's quest and deny James's dreams.
I'm going to say yes, Will Power and Kyle Kirkwood, maybe at Long Beach. That's what I'm feeling, because
Long Beach. Is Kirkwood not always 8 miles in the distance in Long Beach?
Yeah, but that's the inkling that I've got. And we had the Christian Rasmussen inkling last year, so you can never argue against the inkling.
It should be Detroit, the return of the Will Power.
Good theory. I'm going to say, for clarification, that's a good point, Archie. Is this race only, or do we count practice?
Nah, race only. I think race only.
Okay. I will say yes, we will see a collision between teammates. It's unofficial, so I'm going to say Rasmussen's going to do a bit too much of a Rasmussen on an oval and take out Rossi. It's my guess.
Can see it.
Like he almost did at Nashville last year. But he crashed himself. I reckon he's going to take Rossi with him when he does it at some point this year. Right, let's go on to round 3, which is, I like to say, is one of my favourite rounds. They're all my favourite round. I love them all equally. But this one is always great fun, trying to predict the winners. And as you may have remembered from previous seasons, this comes with a bit of a jeopardy. You can't just predict all 25 drivers because you earn 10 points for everyone you get correct, but you get docked 10 points for everyone you get incorrect. So you can't predict everyone, otherwise it'll be an easy way to victory. So it's about trying to think who will win a race, but not going too much just in case you get them wrong. So I'd imagine this is all going to be pretty similar, but for the fun of it, let's see how we get on now. I think by the laws of mathematics, we all agreed that Alex Palou has to win a race at some point this season.
What? No? I'm kidding.
You caught absolutely nobody out with that statement, Archie.
You did a very good job at acting surprised. Yeah, of course he's going to win a race.
Yeah, nothing to add.
Someone else throw one out there.
Scott McLaughlin.
Yes.
Yeah, I got McLaughlin.
Yeah, it's going to go back to winning ways after winless 2025 season, believe it or not. You definitely didn't expect that at this point 12 months ago, but we'll keep quiet. We won't say any more. James.
Scott Dixon.
Yes, so I've gone Scott Dixon as well. I mean, he's got to pick one up at some point on Racecraft, you'd hope.
I think I did this last year as well. I've said I actually haven't included Scott Dixon just because his one win last year. I don't feel like he became particularly close, other than Mid Ohio, and that at that point he was gifted it by Palou. So I feel like it's stupid and quite ridiculous to say he's not going to win a race. But then when I had him on my list, it was up to like 10 or 11 winners, which felt unreasonable. So I've actually cut Scott Dixon.
Dixon's run to third is just still so bizarre in my mind. Like, how did he end up there? Because you're right.
I've got no idea.
You're right.
He fell.
Yeah, fell upwards.
I'm going to throw Joseph Newgarden. He's going to win a Nova race at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
I will throw out Kyle Kirkwood.
Yeah.
I got Kirkwood.
Yeah, it's got to win a street course race at some point. James, next guess.
I feel like this might end the 6 that we definitely all have. Pato O'Ward. Except Archie didn't have Dixon, I forgot.
Yes, O'Ward will win a race.
No, I've got. I mean, judging based on last year, I think O'Ward has got to win one at some point. So now I think it gets a little bit more interesting. Well, you two both said it. I actually made it triple. I actually also went Marcus Armstrong as my slightly. I always want to put one in there, which is slightly braver than the rest of them. For me, that is Marcus Armstrong this year. So we know that both of you put him in already. But no, I've actually joined the Marcus Armstrong hype train for this episode by putting him in as one of my winners.
Fair play. How about Will Power?
Yeah, Will Power is my 8th and final winner. We had 8 winners last season. So I wanted to add 2 more, but then I engaged my brain and said no.
Yes, I have also gone for Will Power. I think it'd be a nice story when he wins one at some point this year. I had a similar consideration to James, but I was thinking, well, we've got one more race this year, which is going to help things out. And I just think a lot of these people I'm thinking will probably win just one race. Like Palou will obviously probably take the majority of them, but I think a lot of people will win just one, and therefore it gives me a lot of space for others to win multiple, is my thinking here. But I've got two more. I don't know about you, Archie.
I've got two more as well to bring myself to 9. Do you want me to throw one out?
Yes, you may.
Did you go for David Malukas?
I did go for David Malukas. I think Gateway. He's written the start. He's got a
Gateway or as early as Phoenix, I think.
Cool. And to round mine off, I just think Christian Lundgaard has such a good year of McLaren. He got so close many times. I think he'll finally get it over the line this year.
Yep, I agree. So basically, I've gone this proper narrative of Armstrong and Dixon like changing of the guard. Don't know where that's come from, but it's happening, guys.
So we haven't been too adventurous because I've gone for 10. Archie, you've gone for all of mine minus Dixon, and James, you've gone for all of mine minus Malukas and Lundgaard.
Now I feel like I should have just put Dixon.
So, well, then it would be too similar to. It would be exactly the same as mine.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's completely pointless. So
Yeah,
basically,
no,
we're all
fair
agreed on 7 drivers winning, and it's a question of do Dixon, Lundgaard, and Malukas win to feed into points more or reduce points. So that's a pretty interesting. We've done it very differently than I've done in previous years, but yeah, that.
Are you proud of me? I actually pressed backspace on Marcus Ericsson after writing it. I felt sad, but I was really proud of myself for powering through that. But I in my heart of hearts, I hope he wins one because you guys know me. But you know, I didn't predict it. I couldn't risk points.
Right, let's go on to the round of random questions, as I like to call this. I assigned everybody with 10 questions, which you really shouldn't know the answer to, but some of them you might be able to guess educationally, some of which you've got absolutely no chance at all, but let's just have a little bit of fun in this episode. So 10 completely random topics I asked people about, some of which ultra specific, but most of these will assign based on who was the closest when we come to season's end. So my favorite question every single year is the Indianapolis 500 qualifying speed question. And we're going to kick that off with what will Rinus VK's lap 4 speed at Indianapolis 500 qualifying be? I'm going to set the benchmark at 230.762 mile an hour lap.
I have gone for 230.867 miles per hour.
I've gone for 230.921.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of realized that Hunkos car will probably be in the sort of high 231s over the average of 4 laps, and when that drops off, it's kind of in the high 230s for that final lap where he's kind of hanging on, but using the hybrid as well, which means that these final lap speeds are slightly higher compared to what they were previously when those, too much calculation has gone into those, and we've literally all just guessed.
I mean, I looked at Connor Daly's lap 4 last year and thought VK would be a little bit less than Daly, so that was my.
I initially guessed a 4 lap average, which was 231.977, I think. So I thought maybe a big first lap, consistent 2, and then drops off a bit.
So Archie, you're in a very difficult position here for getting the point to be closest, because if they lowball it, I'm fine. If he highballs it, James is fine. You've got to hope Rinus VK gets basically exactly your lap to have any chance of getting this point.
I will be paying super close attention.
You will be. You say that sarcastically, but you will be.
No, I genuinely will be.
Right,
not sarcastic.
Sounded it. To clarify, viewers, that was not sarcastic. We take this question very seriously every year. Which driver will have the 7th best qualifying average on oval? So this one, again, you can do a little bit of guesstimation. I've gone for Felix Rosenqvist.
I went for Scott Dixon.
And I went for Kyle Kirkwood.
Interesting. Nice mix there. I like that. This is a new variant of question I've made, and I quite like it. When will Alexander Rossi's first pit stop at Road America be? I've gone for lap 11.
I've gone for lap 11 as well.
Oh, come on.
I started, initially I wrote lap 10, and then I was like, nah, lap 12. So I'll go for lap 12.
Thank goodness. Right, we've got at least some bit of variation there. Okay, all pretty similar guesses where we think Alexander Rossi is going to first pit at Road America. Which driver will have the most finishes in the unlucky 13th place? I've gone for Nolan Siegel because he's going to be unlucky this year.
Oh, poor guy. I went for Santino Ferrucci.
And I went for Graham Rahal.
Interesting. Nice. Which driver will qualify 16th for the second race at Milwaukee? I've gone for Kiffin Simpson.
Louis Foster.
And Rinus VK.
Nice difference.
No, yeah, like all kind of very similar range, but different answers, which I like. Who will be the cause, or what could be, might be something else. What will cause the first caution at Portland? I've just said Kyle Collette. I'm not going any more than that. I've just said Kyle Collette.
The mega screen falling over again like it did in practice a few years ago. Imagine. No, I'm going for Romain Grosjean, and specifically he's going to hit Christian Rasmussen at turn 1. And then might be a few others involved too, to be fair.
Because Portland's not exciting, I often flash back to Barber in 2022 or 2023, where Stingray Rob had an engine failure. And that was kind of the highlight and the first caution of the day. So I'm feeling a Stingray Rob engine failure brings us our first caution in Portland.
It's funny about Portland because the first 3 or 4 years they had like carnage every year in the first corner. And every year since the goodness, you've got to watch out at turn one because it's going to be chaotic. And every year for about the last 3 years, absolutely nothing has happened on turn 1, lap 1.
I remember tweeting in 2022 saying that no championship contender is safe until they've been through Portland turn 1, lap 1. And then it was like the slowest, most cautious thing you've ever seen in your life compared to the year before where Palou, Dixon and Rosenquist all hit each other in the top 3 guys all hit each other.
That's when they both had the same PNC bank card, which is incredibly confusing. But anyway, some of these things to car knowledge. I better expand on my Collette. He's going to run into his Rookie of the Year rival, Dennis Hauger, in turn 1, and both are going to be very upset because their Rookie of the Year chances have gone up in tatters. Which driver will lead the 3rd most laps at Washington? We did this for Thermal,
and it was 4th.
It was 4th, but nobody led the 4th most laps. I think 3 will probably have an answer. You might only guess 2 people who did a lap, which could be exciting. I've gone for Christian Lundgaard as my guess.
I went for Will Power.
And I went for my outside pit window leads for no reason before dropping back to an unassuming 14th place, Nolan Siegel.
Nice.
Specific. I think Lundgaard will finish in the mix, and it'll be slightly off strategy, but only a lap or 2 later.
I think Power might win that race.
Nice. What will Mick Schumacher's average finish be to the closest whole number? I've gone 18th. Not really much has gone into that. I just feel like 18th.
I've gone for 16th.
I went for 19th. I feel like average finishes are often higher than you might think.
Yes.
But I think they're going to be higher this year, though, generally because there's less cars. So if you finish last, you'll be finishing 25th rather than 27th. So,
very good point. Which driver will pick 18th for the draw at the Indy 500? So absolutely no guesstimation can go to this one. It's just a pure potluck guess. I think number 18, pick number 18, or the bull number 18, Romain Grosjean.
It's just bound to be Ryan Hunter-Reay. It's just bound to be.
It's screaming Christian Rasmussen for me.
People have never watched a draw of such great intent. They're only battling for who's going first. We're battling for who's going 18th. So they're right in their prediction.
We need to remember this.
And this one's a bit for the culture. Which driver will have the most engine penalties? It always used to be a Honda driver. And I was like, I don't want to pick Graham Rahal because it feels like he got one at every race last year. But it's just funny it being Graham Rahal because it feels like for the last 3 years, every single race he has another engine penalty.
If it's not Graham Rahal, I don't know what I'm going to do because it's just going to be Graham Rahal.
Unfortunately, that's the hat trick. It's Graham Rahal.
So funny.
It's just like every race you'd get the email, IndyCar announced a grid penalty. Oh, look, it's Graham Rahal again for the 6th time this season. What is he doing to his engines? I've got no idea. But anyway, that was a funny one. And we're going to end off with, I think, the one that we're almost excited for, which is the standings. Now, as a caveat, we've spoken about this very briefly, and it is so hard to guess this year. Like, I'm looking at my standings, and genuinely, anybody could be plus or minus 5 places. We did this last year. I don't think we did the year before, but it is genuinely so difficult to predict this year. I think the quality of field is just so high, and it's just very difficult to predict.
I feel like I'm disrespecting so many drivers. So if any drivers happen to be listening to this, feel free to be pissed off because, like, genuinely, I can see the entire top 11 finishing in the top 4, 5, 6. They're all there is probably half the field that I think is good enough to be in the top 5 or top 6. And it's like, I feel like I'm insane for putting the people I have 9th, 10th there when I could just as easily see them finishing 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, I've done some drivers a real disrespect. And like, I feel like there's about 10 drivers that could also finish between 13th and 16th.
Yeah, I
Impossible.
found it easier to do that this year than I did to do the top 11. I found the top 11 a right headache.
Yeah, I think we'll probably realise we have the same top 11, top 12 drivers. It's just the combination is very hard to guess. And like that's kind of one clunk for me. And then between about 20th and 13th is also very, very difficult. So as we did last year, we'll go bottom from the top. Bottom was, unfortunately, I think one of the easiest guesses for me. That's going to be Stingray Rob, just based on his track record in his previous IndyCar seasons.
Yep, I also went for Rob.
Stingray Rob for me, that's a hat trick.
Sorry, Stingray.
Sorry, Stingray, good friend of the show, but based on how Hunkos have been performing the last couple of seasons, it's difficult to see much higher than that. 24th, and I got to this point, I was like, oh my goodness, I literally have no idea. It could be about 6 people. I've just gone Kai Collette. I just think the experience is going to let him down a little bit, and I think he might struggle slightly as a rookie.
I agree, Dan. I've also gone for Collette.
I feel like I'm doing him a big disservice here, but I've gone for Mick Schumacher. Sorry, Mick.
I mean, I haven't been much better because I put him 23rd.
Yeah, I've literally just made a last-minute change to my order, and I've put Schumacher 23rd as well because I realised the drive that I had 23rd, putting him 23rd didn't feel right.
It's probably the case for many drivers on this.
Yeah.
And I went for Dennis Hauger in 23rd. As I said earlier, I think my rookies are Linus Stearns. So.
And then this point, they've got even more difficult. This feels unjust, but I think maybe a year out in a team, we don't really know what to expect from them. I mean, he finished incredibly when he first joined the team, but I think Roman Grosjean's going to struggle slightly more in his second visit to Dale Coyne Racing, so I've got him down in 22nd.
Yeah, this is the last-minute switch I did. Grosjean had 23rd, but I have promoted him to 22nd.
Interestingly, I was also switching between Grosjean and Schumacher constantly. So me and Archie the same bottom 4. James, what have you put 22nd?
And in my 22nd spot, I've gone for Kyle Collette. All 3 of them, 23rd, 22nd, and 24th.
This feels really unjust, but I just can't quite see working out this year. Again, I've gone for Graham Rahal. I just think the form in recent years, I mean, there's a lot of people who you look above in the standings and I'm not sure how he's going to jump there. It feels wrong putting him that low. It really, really does. But someone's got to go there for me. It's just happened to be Graham Rahal, but that feels wrong.
Are we ever going to break free from this?
Oh my goodness, Archie. I promise you we have not collaborated on this. This is just going to...
I just look at his trajectory in recent years and it's just pretty stark. And I just don't see this year being the year he gets out of it. Just that whole thing about it just continues to be so competitive, even between those teams of the kind of the lower reps.
Mine's not too different, but as you'll see, but for the time being, it's Roman Grosjean up next for me.
Archie, have you got Dennis Hauger 20th by any chance?
Yes, I think we actually alluded to that earlier, but yes, I have.
Yeah, Dennis Hauger 20th for me, on top of the rookies, but I mean, the field is so competitive, as we said. I just cannot see many. I want him to put him higher, but I just cannot see how he jumps the people ahead of him.
So I think that means we have the bottom 6 nailed because I've got Graham Rahal in 20th. I concur with all the points that you've made already. It's been a really pretty tough run and I don't see it getting much better. So yeah, I think we've got the same bottom 6.
Interesting. Cool. So that's kind of one clump we have there, man. It might continue, but Archie, I'm going to let you say 19th first. Go ahead.
Nolan Siegel.
Okay, good news. I've got Kiffin Simpson in 19th, so we're slightly different. Finally, James, who's your 19th place?
It's Rinus VeeKay. I just worry a little bit for Hunkos Holland Racing. That's all. I don't think there's any disservice to Rinus VeeKay. And I feel really bad putting him 19th, but everyone I've got above that, I feel like has more of a chance of doing better. That's the only way I've been able to differentiate.
So if we head on to 18th, I think VeeKay's streak between 12th and 14th in the championship is also going to end because I'm going to put him 18th. I know I said something similar for Coyne last year, but I'm just, again, you look above the people above him, I'm like, I just don't see how he beats him across the course of the season.
Okay, I went for Kiffin Simpson 18th.
Archie, we're going to play Snap, and Dan, we've got the same bottom 8 because I've got Kiffin Simpson in 18th.
Right, 17th. I'm looking at it now and that feels wrong, so I'm actually going to make a last minute change. I'm going to put Nolan Siegel into my 17th slot.
I wonder whether we had the same 17th, because I've gone for Santino Ferrucci, which feels like kind of insane, really. But also look at who's ahead of him now, and I think I don't think it's ridiculous putting him there. So
this is the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th that I was alluding to. I really struggled with this. I ummed and ahed, and in the end, I put Nolan Siegel as well. But I really want him to do better. But I just couldn't. I couldn't justify, again, the names that are coming up. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, Archie, you're right. I did a Ferrucci 17th and I made a last-minute swap for him to be 16th. It feels weird. It feels like he should be higher based on the previous seasons. But as we say, look at the people above him. And I just think Foyt have regressed ever so slightly since the departure of Michael Cannon. And I can just see this year being a little bit more difficult for them.
I am going for Foster in 16th, which is kind of the jump that I alluded to earlier that I think he probably will make.
I've got Santino Ferrucci in 16th place.
So same bottom 10, James, for all of us. I've gone looking at 15th, similar vein to Archie. I've got Louis Foster. I'm interested to see how high Archie's put VK here.
I've put Rasmussen 15th.
Oh, it carries on.
Dan, we really need to stop doing this because I've also got Louis Foster in 15th place. I alluded to it earlier that I thought he was going to be the one that drags an RLL car up the standings. But yeah, we've now gone 11 from 11 for the bottom. So yeah.
I was merged of Archie for the first 6, and now I'm merged of you, James. So James, I'm going to do what I did with Archie. You can go next. Who's your 14th slot?
I think this will be pretty close between, again, the ones above, but I've gone for Alexander Rossi.
Dan, who did you go for before I reveal?
Alexander Rossi.
Oh my word. What is happening?
Rasmussen beat him again this year, as was James's bold prediction last year.
Okay, interesting. He stays within the threshold. Renus VK 14.
Did you put him there because you want him to stay within the threshold, or do you?
Because
I
genuinely think he will stay within that, because I think I put him like very, very low down the championship last year. I think he was in the 20s last year, and he's surprised. So I think he comes into a team with actual better foundations this year. So yeah, I think he could finish 14th.
Okay, verging on the top half. James, I'm scared. I think we've probably put the same guy here as well.
Yeah, and the Christian Rasmussen to beat Alexander Rossi, and as I was alluding to, I think it'll be close. So I got Christian Rasmussen in 13th.
Yep. So have I. So have I. Rasmussen's in 13th as well.
I have Marcus Ericsson in 13th.
James, what's your thoughts about that?
I'm not that. It's not that far off from where I've got it. So I'm disappointed, but I'm also a realist. So
brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him in 12th, so I'm not too different to Archie.
I have got Rossi in 12th. I think he probably is going to beat Rasmussen this year. He'll probably grow a little bit compared to where he was last year.
This is by far my worst pick, but I don't know. This is such an unknown for me, but this is definitely my worst pick, and I'm already apologising when he finishes 4th in the standings. But it's Felix Rosenqvist. This is my worst pick, I think.
Okay. Again, like, this is why it's so hard, because you look at the people in the threshold and it's like, well, he's got to fit in somewhere, and there's a lot of guys I think who just do better.
This is where it gets really hard for me. This is where it gets really hard for me, because I actually put Rosenqvist 11th.
As did I.
He was just the fall guy for me in terms of looking at that. This is where it gets hard for me with this top 11. And I kind of look at it and think, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know, like, how he elevates further looking at the guys I've put ahead and the predictions I've made kind of earlier in the episode. So I feel like he probably will do better than that. But
yeah, I think based on other predictions, he's got to go somewhere, and I just think the top 10 are going to have a better season than him. And that's not, I don't think Rosenqvist's going to drive worth. I just think you look at Penske are obviously going to make a step forward this year, and you expect Andretti maybe to make a little bit of a step forward too, and he's just got to fit in somewhere. And being a satellite car and a 2-car program, you just feel like that's where he's going to end up.
This is where I've put Marcus Ericsson. I would love nothing more than for him to break strongly into the top 10, but yeah, I've gone for 11th at this point. I think he'll score a couple of podiums, but I don't think it will be anything groundbreaking.
Okay, so I think I'm right in saying we all have exactly the same top 10 because we have all three Penske's. We have Lundgaard and O'Ward, we have Kirkwood and Power, we have Armstrong, and we have Dixon and Palou. So we all have the same top 10, which is exciting. To kick you off my top 10, I've gone for David Malukas.
This is where I'm just hate myself for every pick I've made now. I've actually gone for Newgarden in 10th.
I've gone. Despite bigging him up the entire episode, I did very much allude to it a little bit earlier that I didn't think he was going to finish. I think he's going to have higher highs, but a little bit less consistency. And so I think Marcus Armstrong slides into my 10 spot. But as I said, I think he'll win a race. I think he'll have higher highs, though.
I think that's quite incredible. After this entire episode, I've ended up having Marcus Armstrong higher than one of you in my championship standings. Not much higher. I've got him in 9th. But yeah, I predicted him to win a race at some point. And unbelievably, after what you were saying at Content Day, it's still a regression in what he did last year. But as I said, for this entire list, you look at the guys above, and I just don't think he's going to beat them.
I, for 9th, have put Willpower, which I also don't love, but then I look at who I've got ahead, and I just think he might have a bit of a Herta-like season as he kind of gets adjusted to Andretti. So that's the logic there. But again, I said earlier, he could easily finish 3rd, 4th in the standings, and I would have absolutely no quibbles with someone saying that. So it's bloody hard.
I hate my 9th place pick because he was really, really good last year, but I've gone for Christian Lundgaard. Again, I look at the 8 drivers that are there above, and I just can't split them. And so he was the fall guy for me. I just think the 3 Penske's won't have as bad a years as they did. And so that immediately pushes a few more cars in. And yeah, it's so hard.
Yeah, I put Willpower in 8th. I just think this adapting season will take a little bit of time. I think he'll have a good season. I think we'll leave the year saying Willpower had a good year. And I think it'll be competitive. Maybe he might lack a little bit of consistency. And yeah, again, it's just so hard at this point trying to work people out.
Yeah, I've gone from Malukas 8th, just edging out Newgarden, Power and Newgarden. Newgarden finishes 10th owing to McLaughlin hitting him in Milwaukee, as I predicted earlier.
I have also got Willpower in 8th as well. Very much for the same reasons as you. I think he'll win a race. I think it'll be a really, really strong first season with Andretti, but also that consistency, getting up to speed with the car, and just, sometimes that car lacks a little bit on short ovals, and just whilst he gets comfortable with it, because the Honda engine is also different to the Chevy.
Yep. Joseph Newgarden's a very difficult one to place just based on the previous few seasons, but I'm pretty happy in 7th. I feel like he's not going to quite make the championship push that he obviously wants to make, but he can't have as bad of a season as he's had in recent years. So I've put Newgarden in 7th.
Don't love this either, but I've got Scott Dixon 7th. I think he might have a similar season to last season, but everyone around him just isn't quite as inconsistent and just dropping the ball as they were last year.
I've got David Malukas in 7th. Really strong first year with Penske. It won't be a title challenging season, but he'll show why he belongs there.
James, did you not predict Willpower to finish ahead of David Malukas in the best place in new place?
Yeah, but I was unable to split them. But I said I think Willpower will bring more to Andretti than I think. So I think it will be a better transfer, but I still think because I think Penske are better than Andretti, if that makes sense.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
I just think the effects on the Andretti team will be better for the future. But that's literally like I can't split them. If they finished on the same amount of points, I'd be like,
you win.
Exactly.
Yeah, as Archie said, I really don't like the Scott Dixon even in 6th was too low, but it's just like Dixon's kind of feels like to get race victories the last couple of years. He's had to pull the rabbit out of a hat a little bit on occasions. There's not many weekends where Dixon goes to and is consistently at the front. And a lot of his good results come based on he's able to pull off the unorthodox strategy that nobody else does. So I just think some others have got a little bit more pace than him race to race. So yeah, I've only got him as 6th, unfortunately.
My 6th place is Christian Lundgaard. Which is a funny one because I actually think he'll have a better year. I think he'll make a step forward compared to what he did last year, but he will also finish lower in the championship. So, yeah, it'll be a strange one, but I don't think it'll feel like a step back as much as it may look like it.
This is where I've placed Kyle Kirkwood, and I don't love this pick because I want I really want Kirkwood to put together a really strong championship push because he's definitely a driver of that caliber. But I look at the 5 guys above, and they are undoubtedly the 5 heaviest hitters in IndyCar, and so I can't really justify putting Kirkwood any higher than that as much as I want to. It's just so difficult. We've made this so hard for ourselves.
I've gone for Christian Lundgaard in my 5 spot, kind of very similar to what Archie said. It's going to be a better year. Same 5th is the same way he came in the championship this year, and the package. I just expect the pack to be so close, and Lundgaard for me is lost in the 5th.
I've cornered myself a bit here, but I genuinely believe it's possible. Marcus Armstrong, I've got in 5th.
This is where I've placed Scott Dixon. And you've alluded to it as well, that race wins are starting to get a little bit harder to come by as Alex Palou pulls the Scott Dixon that we all know and have known over the last couple of decades. But yeah, I just think this is a fair place for Dixon because he is just still an imperiously good driver.
Okay, so heading into my 4th spot, I've gone for Scott McLaughlin. Obviously, my last year's champion prediction. I think it's unrealistic for expecting him to make an absolutely huge jump back to championship contention after the year he had last year, but I think he will recover some of those losses. As we said earlier, we've seen him back in victory lane. I think 4 for me feels about right.
I'm going Pato O'Ward in 4th, but I think he will feel in as much in the fight as he did last year, to be honest, because he never really actually felt in the fight last year. Whereas I think from the outset this year, he might be a little bit more in contention.
Same as you, Dan. I've gone for Scott McLaughlin in 4th, and I concur with everything you said. I think it will be a really strong year, but I don't think it will be incredibly close. I think he'll kind of be in it until the penultimate round, but then probably a dropout after that.
So I've gone for Kyle Kirkwood in 3rd. I think this maybe is a little bit brave, but I really expect him to have yet another really, really good season. I think just to clarify why I put him here, I think you've got to bear in mind there's 3 new street tracks in Arlington, Markham and Washington, and Andretti have a very good street course package and it kind of adapts new tracks very well, which I think is going to help Kirkwood. Look at the other street tracks. Long Beach is a very happy hunting ground for him. You've got Detroit, where generally Andretti have been pretty good as well. And obviously St. Pete's King of the Season, which Andretti typically aren't as strong at, but I just think that street course advantage is really going to help him this year. I think over improvement's been good. I think power's going to help elevate their short oval performance a little bit more. And I just think that kind of sloppy last 7-8 races we saw from Kirkwood last year, we won't see this year. So I'm actually it's a bit adventurous, but I think realistically he could get 3rd in the championship.
I've gone for Kirkwood 3rd as well. I think he just continues making a step forward year by year. Thinking about it, I should have really gone for 2nd because then he would have gone from 11th to 7th, 4 spots, 7th to 4th, 3 spots, 4th to 2nd, 2 spots, and he'll win the championship next year. But maybe that'll be my prediction this time next year if he finishes 2nd in the standings. Yeah, Kirkwood 3rd for many of the same reasons that you said, Dan.
I've gone for Pato O'Ward in 3rd, again, for many of the same reasons that you were detailing, Archie. I really want it to all click, but with Alex Palou being the imperious machine that he is, I just can't quite see it happening. But it'll be another strong year, undoubtedly a couple of race wins in there as well. So that's what I've gone with.
Yeah, I've gone for O'Ward 2nd. I just think he's the best of the rest currently. I think his oval form is obviously really strong. I think, as I said last week, he ended off the season really, really well. Like loads of top 5s. The only time he wasn't was when he had a mechanical failure from the lead. And I think he was the one guy, particularly towards the end of last year, who could beat Palou, even when Palou was still at his imperious self. So I just think that gives me the most confidence in O'Ward being the closest to Palou in the championship. I think McLaren continues to make big steps. I think this new shop they've got is really going to help elevate that as well. And I just think O'Ward is, I think it sounds a bit weird to say, but maybe the most reliable guy outside Palou in the series now, race to race, and the expectation to perform. And he kind of cleaned up a lot of those messy areas he had in previous years last year. And I think he's kind of got a level of driving maturity now where he's going to pose the biggest challenge to Palou. I don't think it's going to be a huge trip. As I said, I think I'll take it to the final race, and I think he'll make it at least somewhat interesting in the championship battle this year.
I think 2nd to 4th will all be pretty tight, but I've gone for Scott McLaughlin. I just think last year was a blip, but I don't think it's anything that's going to be long-term damaging, really. I think we'll see him kind of restore the form that he had in 24. I think he ended the season, obviously, with a couple of podiums in vein that suggested he could definitely get back to that sort of reliability, so that sort of consistency, that sort of speed, really, which we still saw at points, just not kind of regularly enough. But I think he will refine that sort of form in a team that does feel like it is kind of settling down a little bit after all the turbulence that they had last year. So yeah, I think McLaughlin will rebound for his best finish yet, but obviously fall short to Palou.
Yeah, so I've actually got Joseph Newgarden in my second place spot. I really think this might be a bounce back year for him, and it needs to be. Again, it's a contract year, so extra incentive there as well. We saw how Will Power's contract year played out last year, and I just think that last year was such a big blip, and there was so much talk about the 3P, and then Team Penske had their disqualification at the Indy 500, and that kind of unsettled a bit of the rest of the season, and then they just suffered terrible luck from there, but did end up winning in Nashville, although fortuitous that Pato O'Ward crashed out of that race because of the mechanical failure. But yeah, I just hope to see a big step forward for Joseph Newgarden. He's too good of a driver not to be putting together championship pushes, and so yeah, that's who I think is going to finish as I guess they call it the vice champion. It's the runner-up, lads. Yeah, the runner-up.
And obviously, as we always said earlier, Alex Palou is our collective first place. So yeah, that was interesting. Very interesting to see what perspective both of you put in comparison to mine. Obviously, I was with Archie at the start, and with you, James, and then we kind of all got quite different towards the top 10, which is quite fun. It means it'll be quite interesting come September when we review these. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how this turns out. I'm glad I haven't gone as bold as I had last year, because it means I can't be embarrassed to the same extent.
Yeah,
I think you're at the biggest risk of embarrassment here, Archie.
Am I? Armstrong, because of how many eggs I put in the Armstrong basket.
So.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I would say I'm looking forward to September, but I'm not, because I don't want to wish the season away. So that would be a lie.
Yeah, I think it will fly by. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how these unfold, because I feel like I've done a lot of people a disservice, and yeah, Archie, you're also banking on Rinus VeeKay keeping that 12th to 14th spot streak as well. So you know, there's important games to be played.
That's low stakes. I'm more bothered about who draws 18th in the Indy 500 qualifying draw, to be honest.
And your problematic Rinus VeeKay Indy 500 qualifying guess. You are in the depth right now. You're gonna have to get Rinus to tune his car exactly so he goes exactly that speed. You're watching with intent on Carb Day to see how not Carb Day, the other one, Fast Friday, to see how close he can get on his lap 4.
When I'm just going absolutely wild because VeeKay gets a 2:30.867 or whatever I said. I think that was it.
Imagine if he gets it. He gets your time on the day 1, but on day 2 he comes back for whatever reason, whether he's being bumped or whether he's going for pole, and your prediction goes into the mud.
I still feel like it would go down in folklore.
Fine. Well, we'll see what happens. That's only in 3 months' time. It's 3 months' time minus the day, I think, into the Indy 500, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And the season
as we record.
Well, actually, we start recording the 24th, which is exactly 3 months away, and now it's the 25th at the end of the recording. So
yeah,
it's now. There we are. It's a day less, and which we're a day less to St. Petersburg. We are now on Wednesday, so we are 2 days from cars being on track and 3 days from the race. We're not 3 days from the race. For 2 days, 3 days from qualifying. We're 4 days from the race. So there we are. Not very long to wait. James, thanks for joining us again. We will catch up when the season's ended to see how you fared. See if you can defend your crown. Maybe me and Archie would take it away from you this year. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm feeling slightly less confident this time around. If there was any confidence, it has been torn to shreds. But no, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
And that's it. That's going to be our last episode before St. Petersburg, which we are very looking forward to. We'll be back on Tuesday for our race review. I can't believe we're at that time already, as we said in our preview episode. If you do want a little bit more about myself and Archie's thoughts before the season, listen to the preview episode that came out earlier this week. But for this time, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.